I bet just like me, you love your family, and yet sometimes it's hard to be around them. Today, we are talking about dealing with our family and how often we go into patterns of protection where we sort through people and categorize them. We put them in an us or them category, and how doing those things prevents us from connecting with other people and approaching them with curiosity and wanting to actually know their experience. So, welcome to our next episode of Regulated Holidays, Navigating Family. Welcome to Burnout Solutions, a podcast designed to help high achievers and healthcare professionals understand stress and how it can lead to burnout. Together, we'll explore how your brain and nervous system naturally work and why they sometimes hold you back, and how to overcome those challenges to fully enjoy the success you've worked so hard to create. I am your host, Mona Tippett, registered nurse, burnout coach, and resiliency educator. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Burnout Solutions. This is our Regulated Holidays series, and I'm so glad you're here. I am excited today to talk about navigating family. And a lot of people I've talked to about this are like, oh, I could use that. Well, I don't know that there's anyone who couldn't use it. We all want to stay regulated and connect with our family during the holidays, right? We love these people. And for some reason, sometimes these people have a secret talent for activating our nervous systems and helping us behave in a way that we actually don't want to, especially around the holidays when there's more to do, expectations, tight schedules, we're on a sugar high or low, and we have that family history in the back of our mind. It's the perfect recipe for emotional dysregulation and regret later. So today I'm hoping that this episode will give you a new way to navigate family dynamics so that you are less reactive, you can use more agency and show up with more intentionality. I hope that you can be more dignified, use more curiosity, and really give you some concrete ideas on how to broaden out your conversation, increase awareness for yourself and those around you, and a little bit more about how your nervous system really is trying to keep you safe, but actually preventing you from how you want to show up. So, question, why can your family be the hardest on your nervous system? And this reason is actually pretty simple. Family dynamics are different from work, from neighbors, from friends, because they often come with a long history of people that you are, in air quotes, forced to be around. You're actually choosing it, but sometimes we feel forced. And when we are around those people, we're not only responding to Uncle Clyde's sarcasm and awful jokes that he's using today, but your nervous system also remembers the last 20 years of holiday gatherings with Uncle Clyde. And remember, polyvagal theory explains that our bodies remember the things that our brains can't always articulate. So your nervous system stores things like the tone of your parent's voice, the expressions that your siblings make, the silence in the room, the tension at the table. And all of that can activate what Deb Dana calls our survival stories. And these survival stories are unconscious. They are things that we're not aware of, yet our nervous system takes them very seriously. Let's go into that just a little bit about what your nervous system survival story actually is and how they are formed. The autonomic nervous system is always scanning the environment for cues of safety and cues of danger at internet speeds. And when a cue of danger is detected, the body automatically shifts into a survival state. So fight, flight, freeze. And the brain quickly generates a story to rationalize the physiologic response that's going on inside your body. And it draws on past experiences to match the current moment with a past one. And often these are superficial cues. The intention of a survival story is protective. Remember, your nervous system's job is to protect you and keep you alive. So it has learned from previous threatening situations, like a critical comment from a sibling or a parent during the holidays, that it needs to attempt to prevent similar harm from happening again. And it wants to keep you secure, so it will modify your behavior. However, there is often a mismatch, and this is why your stories don't really help and why your nervous system is doing its very best to help you, but it's working against you and not for you. This happens when these past-based stories are applied to a present situation that are not actually accurate, or the situation isn't actually dangerous. Your nervous system uses outdated information, like the story might be a response to a historical threat that isn't really relevant today, such as a holiday gathering. You are now a safe adult, not a child that is feeling endangered. And again, this is mental, emotional, physical danger of when you were a child. And your nervous system often detects a threat that is much more threatening than in reality it is. For example, maybe you are around cousin Benny, who, when you were younger, hit you with his toy at Christmas. And for some reason now, even though you're both 35, maybe you haven't seen him in 25 years, just being around him, you feel a little bit threatened. And there's often a misinterpretation of cues. So maybe a neutral or even a positive cue can be felt as dangerous. Maybe a family member is just raising their voice because they're excited, or they're telling a story and they're talking really loudly, and your nervous system can misinterpret that as a threat. It can be triggering, and this is an unnecessary survival response. I want you to remember that your blueprint, which is your nervous system patterns that were created between 0 and 7 years old, your nervous system takes that blueprint very serious and often uses that blueprint to flavor any current situation. And it matches the current situation with something that happened similar in the past, and the past superimposes itself onto the present, making authentic connection and joyful holiday experiences hard because your body is in a state of defense when it could be in a state of social engagement. And remember, when our body is in a certain state, it's as if we're putting those lenses on. So when we are in a protective state, we are looking through the lens of protection. And we often are more critical. We are more judgmental. We feel more insecure. And those lenses heighten or exaggerate the experiences that we are going through. Now, I want to first remind you that when you feel, or if you feel activated around your family, there is nothing wrong with you. And this podcast can be applied to any group of people that you are around, your coworkers, a family party, a co-working party, a whatever group that you tend to associate with often. This is just how your nervous system works. It is normal, and we're not blaming other people for creating this survival story. It is most likely out of their control. This is just how humans interact with each other. So, what are some examples of a survival story that might be brought up in a family situation? I wanted to give some of those so that you understand a little bit. Let's call this first story a walking on eggshell story. Let's just say that you grew up in a home with frequent conflict, and your nervous system learned maybe that quietness and people-pleasing were the safest ways to avoid triggering an explosive argument or starting a fight. And it was just safer for you to avoid conflict by not saying anything, right? So maybe you arrive at a family gathering and the atmosphere is just really quiet. You're the first person there. Maybe it's calm or subdued. And when you walk in, you're not hearing and feeling the usual hustle and bustle. And maybe you feel like quiet means that somebody is about to get angry, somebody is overstressed, and you're not sure what's going on, but your nervous system says, I need to play small, be agreeable. I need to be the one to calm down the conflict should it arise, or I need to exit immediately if a disagreement starts so that I don't get caught in the middle of it. So what is the mismatch? Well, the mismatch is the current gathering is simply just a peaceful, low energy place. Maybe people have changed. Shocker, we do change. And this is not a dangerous pre-conflict zone that's about to blow up. This is where your story can prevent you from relaxing and engaging in a genuinely safe environment based on a past painful experience that your nervous system has stored. Okay, the next one, we're going to call this one the I'm not good enough story. Maybe you are a person whose contributions during a past holiday meal were often met with criticism, like your cooking isn't as good as Aunt Nancy's and this stuffing is awful. Or, wow, this turkey is really dry. I remember grandma would make it and it was so good and blah, blah, blah. Or your pie crust really needs some help. Or I really like your pie except the pie crust. Or, wow, this actually was surprisingly really good, right? Just comments like that maybe could trigger you. And maybe somebody asked you, like a in-law who has no idea your history or no idea those things that were said, and they ask you to bring a side dish, or maybe you ask their opinion on a recipe or something. And your survival story is they are going to judge me and find me lacking. They're going to find something wrong with it. I can never make it as good as Aunt Betty. I should just decline the invitation to make this. I should just bring something from the store. Or I'm not going to bring anything so that I can avoid the shame and the rejection and the put downs of the dish that I brought. So where's the mismatch? The mismatch is a current situation and the host is asking you to bring something, and maybe they really do need the help and they are wanting you to bring something. Maybe they love the dish that you made, regardless of what everybody else said about it. And they genuinely want you there and your contribution and your company. But this old story can create a self-fulfilling prophecy of I'm not valued or I'm not good enough because you didn't bring something. And maybe they're like, that's weird. And that just reinforces a story of I'm not contributing, and you isolate yourself and you're not showing up how you want to be because you are fearing the same rejection that happened in the past. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay, one more example. What about, we'll call this the I need to fix everything story. So the past experience here is a person maybe felt unsafe unless they were in control and problem solving the situation, because maybe their parents were often overwhelmed or unreliable during stressful times. So how can a trigger happen during the holidays? Well, maybe two family members begin a disagreement during a game or a conversation that leads to louder voices, leads to less questioning, leads to more I need to defend myself and my opinion here. And it can leave somebody thinking conflict is dangerous and it leads to chaos. So I need to intervene immediately, try to mediate, try to control the situation, try and make everybody feel better. You turn to the lawyer and, okay, I see your point. Now let's listen to this point. And maybe you just want to make sure that everybody is safe, or you just have to leave, right? You flee and avoid the conflict and just don't say anything or try to distract. The mismatch here could be the current disagreement is a healthy, normal exchange of views between maybe they actually were regulated adults and they just are very passionate about how they talk. And you saw the cues as being dangerous and being upset when in reality, they have a long history of connection and being able to say things bluntly with each other, but you find it offensive and maybe disrespectful, right? That's the interesting thing, is that everybody's perspective is different and valid based on their life history and the things that they've experienced. However, you could feel like you need to fix a non-existent problem, and you could be intrusive, and you could prevent maybe even healthy negotiation of other people. I hope this is making sense. But those are just some examples of how your nervous system is trying to help you, but they actually aren't. I also just want to reiterate that a survival story is based on something that is not an objective fact. It could not be proven. It is your story. It is a protection code made by your nervous system. And, there's no way to prove that every time you go to your aunt's house that you end up feeling judged. That is an interpretation that you walk away with. Or say, anytime I'm around cousin whoever, they always blow up. So I need to watch what I say. Well, guess what? You haven't even entered the house yet. You have no idea. Even stories like being around my family is exhausting. So I have to stay guarded. I have to only be there for brief interactions, right? This is where you haven't even walked in with curiosity. You haven't given people the benefit of the doubt. And all of these stories form because your nervous system has learned that this kind of person or place or interaction is dangerous, and I am trying to protect myself in some sort of way. And now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about some labels that I learned from the book I Never Thought of It That Way by Monica Guzman. And I'm going to tell you what I learned, and then I'm going to put a nervous system spin on it because that's what I love doing. So she talks about how the main thought of the book is that we need to approach people with more curiosity and understand other people's beliefs and backgrounds and life experiences so that we can connect better regardless of our beliefs. And she talks about how we often unconsciously use our brain and our nervous system to go through an invisible process to help us understand people. And the first term that she describes is called sorting. And that's just what it is. This is just the invisible process by which we put ourselves closer to people who are like us, and we put ourselves away from others who are not like us. And when we do our sorting, we put people in an other group. And this is a visible or an invisible group boundary that we create that says, yes, you're with me, or no, you're not. Examples of this are a different political party, a different religious group, people who believe X, Y, and Z about some topic. And we're constantly putting people in categories and groups, even in healthcare. The fifth floor nurses are always like this, or the night shift never gets this done. And these are very big, general, stereotypical classifications that we put people in. The second grade teachers are always the best at this. Even I thought about in our last neighborhood, there was several cul-de-sacs in the neighborhood, but there was one cul-de-sac called the cul-de-sac and referred to the people in that cul-de-sac. And it just makes me laugh how people do this. And why do they do this? I'm putting my own spin on this because it feels good to connect with other people in protection mode, right? We bond together in our opposition of others. We feel connected by protecting ourselves from other people's differences, other people's opinions, other people and their beliefs. And when we are grouped together, it gives our nervous system some sort of backing, and we don't have to face the enemy alone. And the enemy, again, is in quotations. Othering makes it easier to put blame on other people. It makes disagreements seem easier and reasonable and justified. We have us, and it makes them dangerous. So this is just categorizing people. Now, using neuroplasticity, our brain becomes accustomed to those beliefs of us and our people. And we are surrounded and fed those thoughts that agree with our own. And those thoughts become easier to see, easier to believe, to think and live. And when we do this, we see a less expansive view of the world. So again, sorting is putting people in groups and maybe using stereotypes. And then there's creating a bucket of us and them. So othering is people that you don't see agree with you. And the more we do this, we create a silo. That's another term used in the book. A silo is just the creation and accumulation of stories that we see and stories that we don't see as a result of us putting people in categories. And I loved her explanation of the sorting, the othering, and the siloing. And I thought, how does that work with our survival stories? Well, when we can predict and put people into categories, it helps us stay safe. Like saying, well, he's the dramatic one, right? We label people. She's the one who never listened. They are the ones who always cause conflict. And this is your nervous system simply just making it easier and taking out the complexity of humans and their beliefs, because sometimes that feels dangerous and risky. When we can push people further away, we feel less threatened. Like, why are they like this? I can't deal with them. They are so impossible. Your autonomic nervous system is whispering distance equals safety. And we are clinging to those people who we see agree with us. And we are avoiding those who don't. Like we hide in the kitchen with our people. We stick to topics that we are comfortable with, confident in, and passionate about, and avoid topics that we're not, or avoid topics that we feel a little threatened by, right? We also avoid certain rooms or individuals or certain corners that we're going to get stuck in when we're talking to people. And our nervous system is constantly telling us, stay with the familiar tribe, because that is where we can connect, and we need to protect ourselves from other people's emotional and mental threats, right? And these are all just autonomic protection strategies dressed up as relational patterns and examples. Now, the problem is that these patterns, when we put ourselves and we sort others and we create this siloing, it can block connection, even when the threats aren't real, right? Our survival stories are very much rooted in these stereotypes. And I want you to also pay attention when you are at a family dinner. Maybe you don't feel threatened. Maybe you don't have survival stories, but I want you to see if your whole entire tribe are very, very connected and in their own sorting, and you're all agreeing and you're saying, I can't believe that these people think this way, and you're all agreeing, right? You're all fueling your own stories and building up that silo even more in order to protect yourself from the enemy or the outsiders. I believe that is not resolving conflict. That's actually helping create more conflict outside of maybe your home or the family dinner or whatever. And it's very possible that everybody does not agree, but they don't know how to bring up their disagreements. And this is how it blocks connection. Because when our survival stories, when our sorting go unchecked, their brain is trying to keep us safe from other people who actually aren't dangerous. There's nothing dangerous about another person who thinks different politically or religiously or sees things from a different angle. And your nervous system often confuses emotional discomfort and having difficult conversations as an actual threat. And when you feel threatened, it leads you to, and other people, to have a defensive tone, having a bracing body posture, shallow breathing, pre-planned responses of criticism or withdrawal. We often anticipate old patterns and old behaviors before they even happen. So instead of entering the holidays with openness, we enter with feeling armored, either against other people or against our family, ourselves. What can we do about it? There are some things that I'd like to help you with to rewrite your survival story so that you can help your nervous system slow down, verify, update, right? We need an update on our operating system. And you can re-experience safety in the moment and re-experience or learn that there is safety in people who do think differently. So the first step is to notice the sorting. You can ask yourself, okay, what box am I putting these people or this person in? What story do I always tell about them? What is my initial first impression of them, and how might that be wrong? I like to ask myself, is that story 100% true? Or is this just a shortcut that my nervous system is doing to protect myself? Is this a story based on who they are right now? Or is this a story of who they used to be? I, for one, have changed, I think, in lots of ways over the last 3 years with learning about my nervous system, learning about my brain, being life coach myself, and getting all my certifications. And I have retrained my nervous system to be a little more accepting of other people. And I for sure know that sometimes I do get triggered and hijacked because that is still being human. But I have come a long way. And I like to remind myself, I have changed and I can allow other people to change, right? And that's the beauty of being human and forgiving and letting people be different. So keep that in mind. Notice how you're sorting. Notice how you're assuming. Notice how maybe you just are throwing people into a bucket and a label. The next step is to undo the othering, right? So they are in the other category. They are those people. They are the people who always do this. This is a lot of thought distortions are being used, black and white thinking, stereotypes, magnifying other people's thoughts and abilities, minimizing your own. And we can undo that. So you can ask, okay, I wonder what their experience might be that led them to believe a certain way. Or, what is the thought process underneath their behavior? What have they experienced that I am unaware? I wonder if they might be stressed or overwhelmed too, and they are reverting back to their pre-written stories and their survival stories. And guess what? Their actions have nothing to do with me. They are just venting and they feel comfortable around me. And what if this isn't about me at all? This is just about the stress and overwhelm that they're going through at this time. When we can think those things and undo the preconceived notion that they are a certain way, this widens our window of empathy. And we can do that and, still hold your boundaries, but it allows me to be more compassionate and understanding when I am around people like this. And then we can break the silo. Try to just get any tiny moment of connection. So you can ask one curious question. Be the one at the dinner table. Well, does anybody know anyone who might fit this way, but thinks this about something else? Because those political people in a different political party totally agree with everyone that they voted for, right? On every single issue. Probably not. So ask one curious question. Maybe you could offer one neutral topic to talk about. Maybe you could share one small positive interaction that you had with that person or somebody who thought that way or looks a certain way or, anybody in your other category that you've had a positive interaction with. Because I promise you, if you used your brain to look for it, it could. Another thing is you could try to sit by somebody that you have a preconceived notion about, a preconceived story about, and you could sit near them. You could even not even engage, but just tell your body that you are safe around them and they're just a human being sitting next to you at a dinner table. You're just showing your nervous system that this is safe enough. And I just wanted to give a few examples of how that might look like. Example number one is the critical sibling. So brother always criticizes me, so I need to stay guarded. I need to come in with my defenses and be ready to explain myself. So that is sorting. You're putting brother in the critical judgmental group. You're also putting him in the other group that's the way he is. Maybe he'll never change. He is not like me. I can change, but he can't, right? And then a way of siloing could be that you're hiding in the kids' room or playing with the kids, being outside or in the kitchen or not being around him. We just totally avoid him and keep to ourselves and our opinions and don't even give our nervous system a chance to rewrite the survival story. So how you could rewrite it is you could notice the category that I'm putting brother into the judgmental box. You can ask, is he always like this? Or maybe just when he's around me? That could be possible. You could break the silo by spending 2 minutes asking about his work or his wife's holiday traditions or whatever. And then while you're doing that, you're regulating yourself. You're staying in a relaxed body. You are slowing down your breathing. You have a soft, calm face on. And you can leave that and update your story. That, brother gets judgmental and criticized when he feels overwhelmed. I can stay grounded and I just had a good interaction with him. And it is the holidays. Another example could be the explosive cousin. We have to walk on eggshells around him. Sorting could look like he's always the angry one. I am not angry, right? Because you've never gotten angry, but he always is. You could also say he's impossible. He's in the other category. He's not changing. Siloing is that I only talk to my spouse or my kids about it. I'm not willing to find out his opinion. So just name the old story. Rewrite it. Look for the nuance. He gets heated when he feels unheard. Use curiosity. Hey, how's your kids' soccer going lately? How are your holidays? What's going on? You seem a little stressed. Use the micro moment of connection, just a micro moment, and you can update the story of I can choose how I want to show up and his mood doesn't have to control me or affect me. Okay, last one. We'll call this the passive aggressive in-law. She always makes little digs. So sorting, you put her in the passive aggressive zone and she's always that way. She doesn't like me. We don't get along very well, right? So we're putting them in the them group or not like me. And you can avoid her through your siloing or just give short answers with a smile. Just be very superficial and fake. So the rewrite would be slow down. What is the story my nervous system is replaying? You can say to yourself, can I find even 1% of safety here? Is there anything here that is safe in this moment? You can invite a neutral topic and hopefully, same thing, stay regulated and calm in that interaction. And you could update your story that her comments come maybe from insecurity and I can remain regulated, and I did. So those are just some ways to help in that moment. Okay, just a reminder that you can be emotionally independent, and I understand it takes practice and it can be difficult, but you are responsible for your feelings and your peace is your own to create. Also remember that other people's behavior does not need to control your emotional state, and you can choose how you want to feel. And also remember to stop outsourcing peace and contentment and feeling safe and secure to people who can't really give it to you. That is a you job. And this is huge with family because we all have our past painful learning and learned survival stories such as their approval is safety for me, their disappointment is danger for me, their moods are my jobs to fix, and those survival stories may be outdated. And when we get triggered in those old stories, our adult brain goes offline and your younger self takes over. And that's why you might feel like the adult that instantly turned into a 12-year-old, because remember, everybody is operating on those same patterns and systems. And when I act this way, brother acts that way, and mom acts this way, and she's back into a house full of teenagers, and we're all old and grown up. So remember, you're a grown adult. You can choose how you can respond, and just be aware that when we bring our own survival stories to the holiday dinner with us, that we are showing up armored, and armored people can't connect. And we can rewrite our story by being aware that at one point in time, that story probably helped us, but it currently isn't. And we are using subconscious things like sorting and putting people in the others category, and surrounding ourselves with people that we feel good with, and creating a silo around because it makes us feel safe. But we can all rewrite our story and realize that our families aren't perfect, but our nervous system deserves updated information. And when you update the story, you show up differently because you feel different. You created a different perspective of what happened in the past. And you can create a holiday that just doesn't look peaceful, but can feel peaceful inside your body. And I absolutely know that's true. I have come a long way, and I will continue to make progress. I'm confident. If this was helpful, again, please share it. If you would like some help with your nervous system patterns, I would love to help you. I have just thought about so much that there's no book, there's no textbook. Your phones can't do it. AI can't see your patterns. Google can't see your patterns. And it's often hard to get a clear picture of what's going on inside yourself, especially when we are surrounded by people who agree with us and maybe aren't comfortable showing us maybe some things that we need to change. And that's where a life coach comes in. I love coaching people and helping them see their blind spots. And I would love to help you one-on-one or you in a group setting. I'm starting to offer a group coaching where 2 to 12 people can just get together. And it's amazing what you can learn from other people getting coached. So all of that information is on my website. Have an excellent holiday. The last episode in this holiday series is how to recover from the holidays or a big, giant, stressful event, and how to give your nervous system just a little bit of a break. So talk to you later. Bye. Every week, you're learning something new here on this podcast, and that is a powerful first step. But guess what? Information alone doesn't create transformation. True change happens when you start to think differently and shift the nervous system patterns that drive your behavior. As a coach and an emotional resiliency expert, that is the work I do. I love to walk alongside you, whether it's one-on-one, in a small group that you choose, or with your workplace team. I can help you retrain your brain and nervous system so that stress no longer runs the show. You'll find ways to connect with me in the show notes. Let's do this work together.